Welcome to Pat's Cast, the unofficial Regina Pats podcast. We are a proud member of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network. I'm Matt.
I'm Chris.
And this is our episode for January 12th, 2020.
Paddock, he's straight up the middle into the Cougar zone. Drags forehanded, scores! Oh, what a goal, Cole Dubinsky!
How about that? How do you do?
Robbie Keagle's backhand, and what a glove arm save for Buskey. Was down and out, but he reached and made a great stop. That's the other way to breakaway feet for Zach Smith. He's straight in on Wolf, shoots and scores!
Okay, thanks, Pats fans, for listening or watching in our live stream. You get the live uncut fun when you you watch live on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. So we've got, three games to talk about this week. Kind of forgot about that one that happened last on the Wednesday. That one's kind of come and gone, but we'll talk about that. Also talk a little bit about what the team looks like now. Obviously a busy week overshadowing some of the games that went on, but we will talk about those games and the team. And we're going to have that second part of that interview we did with Josh Critzer last week. So last week we just played, obviously, the games that were relevant to this week, but we have the second half of that. Anyway, so yeah, the three games we want to talk about, starting with PG.
Yeah, we kind of forgot to preview that one. We kind of got into that big long interview and kind of forgot about the PG game, but
and then it kind of almost got lost a little bit this week too with all the other news going on. But it actually turned out to be not a bad game. Team showed some resilience, being down 2-0 pretty early on.
Yeah, they came back a couple times.
Yeah,
so it was
5-4 shootout win, and that was kind of following PG a little bit on this road trip they're on. So they took us to a shootout, which, I mean, no major news there, but
no, that's kind of two comparable teams.
Yeah, and then they followed up in Prince Albert, took them to overtime.
Yeah, 2-1, I think. PA.
Yeah, that was Paddock's first game.
Yeah, so PG saw Paddock back-to-back games, so they're obviously not too big of a fan of him. They lost both.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting to be for him to be able to do that. And then they beat Saskatoon, so they're actually having a bit of success here, where they got 4 out of a possible 6 points.
Yeah, that's not bad to the first half of the road trip, right?
Yeah,
4
absolutely.
points. Yeah,
but overall, I mean, it was a fairly decent game. I don't know, anything you want to say about it?
You know, I totally forgot. I left my notes at home.
Okay.
They're on my game note sheet, and I totally forgot about it. But, yeah, it was just nice that they came back. I thought, it seemed like the third period seemed to be better. Like, they had a bad start again.
Yeah.
But the overtime was pretty dreadful, and then the shootout, I mean, it's skills competition, but whatever. But I mean, we had a couple nice goals.
How about Dubinsky's?
Dubinsky's was real nice.
Yeah.
Smith had a nice little through the 5-hole and stuff like that. So we've done okay in the shootouts.
Yes.
And they put out some new guys this time. Smith, you know, he's been doing all right. I mean, I don't think I would have picked him for the shootout, but it was nice to see him get a chance, and he scored. So it was a great decision there.
Mm-hmm. And in that game, Denemy and Nyhoff both had 2 goals.
Right. Yeah.
We were on hat trick watch. Yeah, I haven't had that for a while.
Yeah.
If anyone recalls, I used to bring a hat during our Memorial Cup year. I used to bring an old hat, just in the case to throw it on, and if we got one. And I don't think I brought it at all last year. Maybe when Jake and Nick were still here, maybe I did.
Yeah, but after that happened, it was like...
I didn't bring it. And I hadn't brought it at all this year, and then I did bring it that game, because I thought, well, if there's any chance we're going to get a hat trick, this might be it against... But, you know, we were talking a little bit during that game, because it was Tuesday or Wednesday? It was a Wednesday. Those midweek games are just ugly.
Yeah.
Pats do not...
A little rough.
Play well in those. But...
and I talked to Nyhoff post-game.
Okay.
And I totally didn't edit. I guess I could play the whole thing. It was pretty decent because I talked to him about the game, not scoring for a while, and about the trade deadline, and then kind of into the trip. So I kind of no, I didn't.
Matt comments, nice to see some different shooters. I think you're right.
Yeah.
It seemed like we were always doing Pratt, Cole,
Holmes prep
Yeah,
goal.
like it was the same guys, and
Yeah.
it was nice. And after watching Dubinsky's
Nice move.
yeah, why not give him some more opportunities?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we know he has skill. Sure, he hasn't scored a lot of goals, but he's a smaller guy, younger guy. You can see the skills there. So when it's a shootout, like there's nothing nothing going against him. He doesn't have to battle against these 20-year-olds.
Yeah,
these bigger guys. His skill can shine in this kind of moment.
he seems like the kind of guy that would be practicing that stuff and want to show it off.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You just get that vibe from him.
Kind of like a Jesse Gabriel vibe.
A little
right?
bit. I was gonna just as I was saying that, I thought he kind of has a Jesse Gabriel vibe to him. Maybe not quite as shit disturber, but yeah.
I'm here. Let me see if I can pull up that Nyhoff if we want to listen to that Nyhoff interview.
Yeah, while you're doing that, just regardless, the game displayed grit. And another thing I did want to mention was there's that awesome interview that WHL Unfiltered did with Brent Parker. And he was talking about how the teams are a little bit on edge coming that week, especially. And he said one of the things that stuck out in that interview is your team will be better after the trade deadline, even if you don't make a move, just because guys are everyone's a little on edge and anxious, and
you can just relax.
Yeah.
Play
So this
game.
was one of those last games before, like, right in the middle of it. Really, things were just starting to heat up the day after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it would have been easy for them to shut it down after 2-0. PG was looking good too, man. They had some nice goals, but yeah, it was a good game. It was fun.
Yeah, and going back to the Memorial Cup year, we saw that how well the team did after the trade deadline. Like, sure, we got some more talent in, and we had all these guys in, but
absolutely
everybody else, can just relax and play the game. They don't have to worry about, am I going to get traded, or I have to do good so I don't get traded so I can stay on the Memorial Cup team, stuff like that. So, yeah,
plug into that one.
Plug that one in. All right, too many chords going on here.
Yeah.
All right, there it is. All right, this is Nyhoff after the PG game. Nice to meet you again. Yeah. Popular guy tonight. What was the message after the first period? You guys got down again, had some defensive breakdowns, but you responded pretty well in that second period.
Yeah, I think the message was just to stay calm, and we kind of talked and really talked to guests about how important these 2 points were. They're a team that's just behind us, and we're looking to close the gap on the other teams. So just that, and how we're getting on the road here. We got a couple of days off, and that we just need to lay everything out there tonight for these points.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough road trip, so that was kind of a key 2 points, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm, for sure.
How about your game? You got a couple goals tonight. You kind of snake bit in there on Sunday. How does it feel to finally pot a couple here?
Good. I mean, it was a little frustrating these last couple of games, but just staying positive and knowing that it's going to happen. And huge credit to Crane and Holmes for those 2 goals. They really helped me.
Yeah. Going into this road trip, you know it's going to be tough. What's kind of the message to the team? Like, you kind of just got to battle through these. It's going to be real tough teams in the U.S. division here.
Yeah, for sure. I think we got a lot of young guys who've never played the U.S. division, so I think we got to talk to them about just how physical it is and how every night's going to be a war. So, but overall, I think we just need to stick to our game and tighten up our defense and really bear down on the chances that we get to help us.
Yeah, I think maybe the trade deadline's kind of in a few guys' heads with the last few games here, possibly.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a few guys who kind of are thinking about that, but at the end of the day, they got to block that out and do what they can for help us while they're here. And by next game, trade deadline will be over, so we'll have our final team then.
Yeah, you guys can focus on the end of the season. What's kind of the outlook there once you guys get past that trade deadline and kind of finish out the season here?
We're just trying to catch as many teams as we can and try to get into a bit of a playoff rush or push at the end of the season there, try to get in there, and I think just build.
Cool. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good trip. Thanks.
That was good. Nice to hear you. It's funny. Rod Peterson had a kind of a junior hockey extravaganza on, what day was that? Thursday, when the trade started going down, and Jared Dumbo was on there saying they're shooting for a playoff push, whether they make it or not. But that is on their mind right now.
Yeah, and Strush's alluded to that. He said they want to get into the playoff race, right?
Yeah.
They, I think it's not unrealistic, but with the last few losses there, after the Moose Jaw wins, it was like, okay, well, if this team stays kind of rolling, they can push possibly for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Not maybe get in, but at least give a run. But so they're still looking to get that kind of run going. But even if they don't make it, they don't make it. But they just don't want to just languish down here in the basement
and just write off the season, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You may as well have a goal that you're working
Yeah,
towards, even if you don't reach it. It's a lofty goal, but hey, you're looking at Red Deer. They're 1 point ahead of us. Saskatoon, we don't really even know what they're doing.
Yeah, they made a bunch of trades, so I don't know if they
it's
kind
if
of like
they're going for it or not. Or
yeah, like it was almost like a lateral move. Like they moved some guys out, but they brought some guys in. So
yeah, maybe a little like Brandon that year, where they
they were in a playoff spot, but said
still
okay,
moved some assets to
They
get
did
some
some
for the
drafts,
future. Yeah, so
draft
they
picks, yeah.
might. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's nice to hear. We haven't heard from Logan, so that was nice to hear from him. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've talked to him since about the start of the season. So
Okay.
yeah, he had a good game, and he was first star. So Access was doing the game, so he got interviewed there. And then he did the radio interview, and I didn't realize that. And then I requested him, so that's why I said he's a popular guy. Yeah.
All right. So anyways, they finished that PG game, and I thought they were going to leave that night off to TC, but with the trade deadline, I think that may have affected it, just because it was such an awkward timing, right? And normally I think they would leave that night,
evening,
but it sounded like, well, there was trades going down that night.
Yeah,
Feist
1 a.m.
was traded.
I was just finishing up my game recap for Dub Network, and the Feist trade came across.
So that was after midnight.
Yeah, it was almost 1 o'clock. I was finishing that up.
Yeah, and then I was off this week. We were both watching Rod Peterson that day, and the rumor came out that Paddock didn't get on the bus that morning to go with the team. So then rumor mill started flying, and there was talk that Brent Parker, I don't know where he if he tweeted it or what, or just spoke to someone saying that the deal was done with PA, and I if it was a done deal as of that PG game, I was surprised he played that night.
No, it sounded like in the press conference he said 1 a.m. it was done. Same time as the Feist one.
Oh, okay.
They just waited till the morning to announce it, I guess.
Okay.
Or he meant the Feist one, but he only really talked about the Paddock trade. He didn't really talk about the Feist trade in that press conference. But he said it was done about 1 a.m.
Oh, okay. I missed that part. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, the team was on the road over to Tri-Cities. Played that game last night. I didn't get to see it, but you did. I watched the highlights. For one thing I noticed was it was nice to see Mackay Mitchell back.
Yeah, and
it's been a while. He was out. You said November 27th.
Yeah, so he's been out quite a while.
Yeah. So nice to see him back with the loss of Tyson Feist. So there was a bit of a gap there. But what did you think about that game? We also got to see Buskey. Start taking over the leader starting goalie role.
Yeah, and I thought Buskey played well. Sure, he gave up 5 goals, but again, there's some defensive breakdowns, some 2-on-1s that we just couldn't stop in the back of the net. They had a power play goal. Like, obviously, you can see this on the highlights, but he's totally screened. He didn't see anything. And honestly, the team didn't play well in the first 40 minutes. I mean, I don't know if maybe the bus legs or whatever, but they did not play well. They came out in the third and played way better. Yeah. And if they would have played for more than 20 minutes, they could have won that game. And here coming into the road trip, I said, this is the most winnable game. We got to have this game because if we don't win this one, we might not win one all trip. And, we see what happened tonight.
Come out flat like that.
Yeah, to come out flat, but at least they responded in the third. I mean, at least they gave a response, kind of like the PG game. They didn't play well in the first 20, and they came out better in the second and third.
Yeah, I watched the highlights, and the goals that Buskey did let in, I don't think any of them were soft goals or anything that he would want back. There were, like you said, 2-on-1s, or on the power plays, they got 2 power play goals. We gave up 2, that is, and then a shorty. And the shorty was, we shouldn't have given that up. And
then we score on that power play.
That's but that's the winning goal.
Yeah.
It was a shorty you gave up, and it's like,
I know.
That's tough to swallow. I don't know.
Yeah.
Really nice to see Englot got 2 goals that game. You can kind of, you want to give some credit to the Dub Network bump, apparently is a thing. So
guys have been putting articles out on players, and all of a sudden they kind of respond.
Yeah.
So I mean, Englot has been
He's been
hot as
on
of
a
late.
good trajectory.
Yeah,
But Chris wrote an article for Dub Network, just talking about Drew Englot, and I think
I
it was
like
great.
Struch's marks on him. He's a pro already. He works hard, and you can see that in his game. So I thought that was some good words for him.
So anything else about that game, or the shots 41-40? Pats actually outshot them.
Yeah, it was quite
Put
a
up
few
41 shots
both ways.
Yeah.
And kind of back to that Englot thing, we kind of talked to him about in our trade deadline special or whatever the breaking news special that we had, that Englot and Jacob Brook are friends. If you didn't hear that episode, and so Jacob Brook, he's hurt, so he's going to be out for a while, but he may have the same work ethic as Englot does, and
that'd be awesome.
Paddock says that's good for us. We like to see, we like Englot's game, so if he has the same game, that'd be nice.
Absolutely. And then tonight's game. So we actually got to watch this just now. Just ended a few minutes ago, really. And what a surprise. What a well-played game that was.
Yeah,
so,
and there was a 60-minute game right there. We came out
full. Right from the start.
Yeah.
So Pats won 5-3 in the end. It was well played. The whole team, top to bottom, set off, stood out, 4 assists. How about and they got the double minor. They scored on both parts of that double minor.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah,
when you get those, that's what you think. Man, we can get 2 goals out of this, and they did. That was fantastic.
Yeah, and I totally glossed over that. I totally forgot about the Tri-City game. They had a 5-minute major. Walker got hit. It was kind of awkward hit, and they called a 5-minute major on that. So they had a 5-minute major, and then TC took a penalty in that 5 minutes. So we had a full 2 minutes 5-on-3. And during the 5-on-3, the Pats I don't think they had a shot on net, and Tri-City hit the post, so they had the best chance 5-on-3.
Yeah.
So that was rough. They really struggled. That was in the second period, I believe.
Yeah.
That's still when they were really struggling in the game. But that was, I thought, after that, I was like, this game's not going anywhere. And then the third period, they came out and responded, but it was just too late.
Yeah, no, this is much better.
Definitely. And to Chase Wolf, he's one of the best goalies
world
in the league.
junior goaltender, right?
Yeah.
So
Top
chase him out of the net, put up
percentage?
5 on him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when we previewed this game with Joshua, that's what he said. I mean, we were looking at this game. They had the
top goal scorer,
top goal scorer, top assist
guy.
Point getter,
and
the best goals against average.
Yeah.
And it was like we kind of X this one.
Yeah,
that'll be a tough one. But wow, and I don't know if Everett was, maybe taking it a bit lightly, getting ahead of themselves or what. But
yeah, and then I just heard post game they're on a bit of a slide actually.
Yeah, they are.
They're 2-8 or something in the last 10. So
something like that. Since the break, they haven't been very good.
Yeah,
it sounds like.
So that's kind of a little surprising. Where is it here? Everett 4-5 in the past 10. So, and then you look at compared to Portland, who's 8-0-1-1 in their past 10. So they've really taken a lead on that whole conference now.
All right. Well, before we go on, so
I guess leading into Portland.
Yeah, a little bit of. So this week kind of got me thinking about what I do for trivia, and I wanted to think of the big blockbuster trade. So put in first one. I didn't know there'd be a lot of junior hockey. So of course, the biggest blockbuster trade ever, right, is the Gretzky trade. So everyone knows about the players and stuff like that, but there's also a cash element to that. And so
I think that was key. It was more of a sell-off rather than a trade.
Yeah, the players. So the money that returned, do you know?
No idea, but it was quite a bit, wasn't it?
It was. So I'll let you know what it was after. The Saskatchewan Podcast Network is supported by Connexus. Next time you're stuck in traffic for a while, here's something to think about instead of why the car in front of you is going so slow or the car behind you is trying to hitch a ride on your bumper. What if your bank was committed to working with you to achieve your goals? What if they cared enough to get to know you? What if they weren't successful unless you were? What if your financial well-being drove everything they did? Come see why things are different at Connexus. Stop by any branch to learn more about how Connexus cares. So the cash was actually $15 million.
15?
Which at that time was a lot. Because when you look back at that era...
What was it, 1993?
There weren't many guys making $1 million a year. It was... I think I saw something recently. It was the 92 season, maybe the first year that he was in LA. or 93. I don't know, when did that trade
I
go
can't
down?
remember
I don't know.
exactly.
Anyway, I saw something from like the 92-93 season, and Lemieux and him were the only ones making more
Then
than
$1
$1
million.
million.
Yeah.
So
Or-
$15 million then is a
Yeah,
lot. That's
yeah.
like a year's bankroll probably almost.
Yeah,
for a
that
team.
probably was the salary kind of
Right.
cap.
So that was a ton of money. So then I did kind of, it was like we were saying, this is a rabbit hole. When you start looking at picks that get traded and how guys end up in places, you can go down deep. So I did want to just kind of try and find a junior hockey one. So one of the more recent ones with specifically kind of like Kelowna doing this year. So they picked up Leon Draisaitl from PA. So one of the interesting things I found was Leon Draisaitl had 192 points in junior hockey, the German junior hockey. That was over 29 games.
Wow.
That's insane. It was like 8 points a game. So anyways, then he ended up in the dub. He played 128 games, scored 163 points. But the thing that I found a little bit interesting was it was only, so he came from PA. Kelowna only gave up a first, a fourth, and 2 players.
Oh,
And the players they haven't amounted to much. Like,
yeah. So
for this
just
guy,
throw-ins.
for Leon Draisaitl, like one of the so they got a really good deal with him.
I think that was. I know Edmonton had their hands in that because I don't think they wanted him back in PA because PA was struggling that year. And They wanted him. They really wanted him to be playing on a good team. So I think that forced PA's hands to take whatever they could get. So maybe that
they didn't get. Yeah, it was just interesting to see they did not get a lot.
Well, yeah, you look at some of these trades in the O and the Q, and there was that one in the O. The guy got 3 firsts and 5 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Unbelievable.
unreal. And then Kelowna this year, they didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to. They didn't want to go all in on. They didn't even want to give up their first round pick this coming draft. I mean, this draft is deep, and I think we're going to get into that in the upcoming episode.
They barely did anything.
Yeah,
we're just have the draft or the transactions. They
picked up 2 guys and they traded 2 guys
and moved Joseph,
and then they moved Carrier. We picked up Carrier from him.
Oh yeah.
So there was 2 trades. So obviously, I don't know, for whatever reason they couldn't get Carrier in the Feist deal. They ended up getting him in a separate deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Kelowna did nothing, and
wow.
So. Yeah, like they traded that guy right there. What's his name? Jonas Petrick. Or no, they picked him up. Sorry.
Yeah, for 5th, so he must not be.
Yeah, like it's.
Huh. Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Or no, they traded him because that's in the trade. So they traded away him and they picked up a 5th.
Oh yeah, so they're just moving players and getting picks.
Yeah.
They didn't really do much.
Yeah, they traded another one there, Jared Newell, for a 6th. So.
Breaking down Regina's trades, so obviously the Max Paddock trade is kind of the most prominent, but we also moved Feist. That was a little bit earlier, but got a 4th round pick for him, so not too bad.
Yeah, I think we'll take that all day long.
Yeah. Were you were you happy with the 2nd for Max?
Yeah, I don't think we would have got it. I don't think we could have got a first for him.
Brent Parker in that interview wasn't. He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. Maybe a 2nd and a couple more. I don't know.
Maybe
but
2 seconds.
I think the player actually may prove to be a fairly significant piece. Jacob
Brooke.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what he turns out to be, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to see much from him this year.
No.
But we'll see him next year.
And then, so Daly to Saskatoon for a 6th.
Yeah, I mean,
just really
whatever. Yeah. He's not going to be back next year, I wouldn't think. He's got 2 goals this year. We got a 6th round. Sure. Great.
Yeah. And then we just spoke a little bit about this one. Cole Carrier from Kelowna for a 6th and a conditional 8th.
Yeah, so you basically take that 6th that you got for Daly and flip him into a 17-year-old.
So this is a 17-year-old, only 8 games in the WHL. He's playing in the AJHL right now. He's got an injury right now too. He's not going to be here right away.
Oh, okay.
But he's not. It's not like a long term. They just said he's not going to join the team on this trip. And
Okay.
May see him later. But, I mean, some nice moves. You look at now 2020, you've got first-round pick from Lethbridge in that Lethbridge trade that we did. So it's actually Swift's first, right?
Yeah.
And then we have 2 seconds and 3 fourths.
2 seconds and 3 fourths.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by all accounts, I think even Brent Parker talked about it in that WHL Unfiltered interview that this draft is pretty good. He's like, I wouldn't be too concerned about a first round pick. Like he said it sounds like it's a good draft this year. And obviously the top 3 guys all applied for exceptional status, so you know that they're really, really high end. And 2 of them are out of Saskatchewan, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
So nice to see some Saskatchewan talent coming to the top. And, you know, maybe that helps them sell, or, you know, with being from Saskatchewan, maybe that helps them attract them to the Pats.
Yeah, who knows? Good. Anything else you want to talk about today? Or should we just go into that?
Yeah, we'll go into the interview right away. We're looking pretty heavy in that 17-year-old age group now. Like you got 6 guys on the current roster, and Paul is signed, so a 7th forward. So we're looking pretty heavy for 17s,
which is fine. That's not a problem until they're going to be 20 next year. So
exactly. So now we're down to 4 19s this year. You got Denemy, Crane, Walker, Buskey. So that's where your 20-year-olds are potentially next year.
Yeah.
And then we're pretty loaded next year for 19. So we'll have 4 forwards and 4 D-men for next year. So hopefully those guys can really help drive this team next year and get out of the basement here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And bring along these 17s and 16s. Like we're going to have maybe a little bit of a younger D core. Like we got 4 16 signed.
Right.
But it's like we say, we have faith in Paddock. He seems to know what he's doing, and he
made some moves. Nothing too crazy or anything.
Nothing unexpected, really.
Yeah, I think we all saw this stuff coming down. Yeah. So, so we're gonna throw it to that interview, and then good. Well, let's go from the frying pan right into the fire. So we go from Everett into Portland, one of the best teams in the WHL. It's gonna be. We always say this road trip's a tough one for the Pats. We always seem to struggle on it, and this year is going to be no exception, especially looking at going into Portland. So they're your team. Why don't you give us a little rundown on them?
Yeah, I think one of the teams that a lot of fans were excited to come see through the U.S. division was Saskatoon, and Saskatoon really struggled coming through here, including an 8-0 loss to Portland. So, Portland is kind of the opposite of Everett and opposite of what they've been in years past. They don't have a dominant top line, but their depth scoring, they roll 4 lines basically all throughout the game. Johnson will start to shorten the bench a little bit, maybe after 10 minutes left in the third, but all 4 lines are just fast. And one of the stats that really stands out to me is Portland has 27 wins and 14 different players have a game-winning goal. So it's and Mike Johnson, the head coach, talks a lot about it during the games of, all right, if you try and shut down this one line and you throw all your attention there, the quote unquote second line gets them. And then the next night it's a different line. And the next night it's the other line. So Portland just throws speed at teams and is often, can be wearing them down. They have 1 regulation loss dating back to November 9th. And that was the Kamloops, but they are, a lot of people thought they were going to take a step back when Joel Hofer went away to the World Juniors. And they also, a lot of fans have forgotten that Simon Knack left as well for Switzerland. And Portland's doing all this without, a top 6 winger who is really producing for them as well. So, I get a lot of questions about, what is Portland going to do? Are they looking to add? And my question or my answer is right now is they haven't had Simon Knack for about a month. And so they're getting a player who's going to come in, who's, I think he's got 20 something points. I should have had his stats. I apologize about that, but he's, they're basically adding a top 6 winger who hasn't been on the team for a month. So um, it'll be really interesting to see what they do. I think a lot of fans, Pats fans who appreciate speed in the game are going to love watching Portland, especially Seth Jarvis. The kid 17-year-old can just absolutely fly. Portland's, stats, they don't have, a dominant player on the stat sheet. They don't have guys in the top 10, top 15 in scoring, but they just get it all throughout their lineup. And in a league that, you guys know, is often dominated by 19-year-olds, Portland has one 19-year-old forward and two 20-year-olds. Everyone else is 16, 17, or 18. So they're doing this with just real young forwards who just keep pressuring you.
Yeah, and we were just looking at that. Portland is the hottest team right now.
Yep.
So do they need to make a move, right?
And that's without Hofer for a while.
Yep, and because they brought in Isaiah Delora at the start of the year from Prince George, and he didn't see a lot of time with Hofer in net, but with Hofer gone, Delora and Januzzi, who got called up, who was playing in the MJHL, got called up, and the team hasn't lost. And I think I don't have their stats combined, but the last it was they were still. I wish I had it, but it was under 2 goals against average and in the .920 save percentage or something like that. So it was just absolutely haven't missed a beat with them. So obviously Portland is going to turn the net back over to Hofer when he comes back. But
we were wondering if they'd give him some time.
So I talked with Mike Johnson about that, and he is going to get some time. Obviously, we don't know how, at the time of the recording, how the game turned out here. But he will miss Portland's game on Tuesday. But Johnson said that he expects Hofer back when Portland travels to Victoria next weekend for Friday and Saturday. So whether or not he plays, he will be back, at least as of Saturday night.
We were wondering, Regina's sometimes the team that garners a rest from the starter. We could see that too. Just they're not a huge threat, so we were wondering if we'd see Hofer or not.
Yeah, the question I'd say to that is Portland played 4 straight games against Prince George, and Joel Hofer started all 4.
Oh, yeah, that was an interesting few games you guys had of home and home and home and home, or.
Yeah,
it was a double. Yeah,
it was 2 games up in Prince George and then 2 games back in Portland. So Portland treated it as a playoff series and kind of used it as an opportunity. Yeah, and it was all right because they've got so many young players, and for a while they had Tyson Kozak just turned 17. He has a December 29th birthday, who's their third line center. But Portland was rolling 3 16-year-old centers for a while. And so that's a lot of, again, a 19-year-old league, and you're running 3 16-year-old centers. Now, Kozak's technically a, 17 by birth year as a 2002, but, by 2 days, right? So they kind of tried to get these guys experience and get them used to the fact of, okay, this is what a playoff series is going to be like. It's going to be travel, and you're seeing the same, team. And whether they're Prince George or whether they're Everett or Kamloops, it's not easy beating a team that many times in a row, and teams start to figure out your tendencies. So
that's a really neat way of looking at it. Yeah, as a kind of a playoff feel to it. Not that the teams are that way, but just the road trip, because as you mentioned, Portland does a lot of traveling. And we talk about Portland here. They just seem to breed success. They're just one of those perennial teams that is good, and even after losing some major stars last year, moving on, and they still are one of the best teams. And it's just they're a very successful franchise, and it's something we certainly take note of and notice out here.
One of the things I think because we get that question a lot down here in Portland is kind of what's the key to that, and it's because Mike Johnson isn't afraid to trade away first and second round picks. And Portland has a lot of players on their team who are from the U.S. who were not in the draft, or players who are late round picks for them. And so, 2 of their 16-year-olds, they found who are playing key minutes for him and, scoring goals. And they were guys who didn't go through the draft that they were able to get to commit. And had they gone through the draft, they're probably second and third round picks. So Portland is able to trade away these picks because they're able to do so well with their scouting. I think they've got more scouts than any team in the WHL. But they also, at the same time, they're able to get players who can commit from the States that maybe some other teams don't have that same advantage.
Yeah, that's something the Pats are trying to get into, is getting more into that American market to some success. But and obviously being in the States, that helps the American, American kids commit to that program.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to pull them away from that NCAA commitment.
Yeah, it can be very hard, but the thing about the West, and this is, I kind of talk out of both sides of my mouth with my NCAA experience and everything, but the West, we're seeing more and more kids from California, Arizona, Texas. There's only three teams if you don't count the Alaska schools, and I guess four now with the addition of Arizona State. There's only 4 Division I programs west of Colorado.
Right.
So this tremendous open space. There's, with the success California's had with the Kings winning their cup and all of that, you're seeing more and more of these kids, and hockey starting to take off. And there's not a lot of, the NCAA is not as big out here. And I think that's why you saw the WHL announce this new US draft that they're going to do. And, there's still a lot of details that still aren't known with that, but, we know it's going to be a 2-round draft, and it's going to take place before the Bantam draft. So they're trying to, and they're going to have this tournament up in Seattle with 8 different teams from around both Canada and the Southwest, and to try and help grow the game and give some of these other, Canadian teams an opportunity to get some of these Americans onto their squad.
Yeah, and the Pats they've dipped into the Arizona market, and even the guy that they got returned from Everett for Ty Cole, he's in LA, and he's a teammate of prospect of the Pats as well.
Yeah.
So maybe there was some conversation going on there.
It's really interesting you talk about growing the game, right? Because we come from, it's saturated. I don't think you can grow the game anymore here.
Well, the game is kind of almost taking a step back, I'd say.
If anything, yeah. So it's interesting to see some stories and viewpoints of where hockey isn't just impregnated into the culture, and efforts having to be made.
Yeah, when I first moved, my hometown in Minnesota has more rinks in one building than the Portland and Vancouver Metro combined. Vancouver, Washington, that is. So there's 4 main ones, but 3 that get used by the local local teams here.
Yeah.
But I mean, my local rink in Minnesota had 4 ice sheets. Right. So it's just it's such a difference out here. And so as they try and find more ice time, and I think with NHL coming to Seattle, that's going to be another key aspect to keep an eye on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I talked to Chad about that on WHL Filtered one episode, and we've got, beside the Brand Center, the Pats rink, there's a 6-plex there, plus another 6 spread around the city, plus, I don't know, 30 to 40 outdoor rinks. And
and then every little farm town along.
Yeah, just outside of town, all have rinks, multiple rinks.
I don't know how many there are in the province.
Yeah,
hundreds.
Yeah.
We don't even have 1 million people, or just over 1 million. So, yeah. Good. So then we got a few days off, maybe some team building, might have some new team members by then. And then we're into Seattle on the Friday. Seattle and Regina, of course, have a bit of a history. Now, those players are mostly all gone. Not much of those teams left, but still a bit of a history there. What can you tell us about Seattle?
Seattle's a real interesting team to try and digest. Like we talked about before, and they moved their captain, former 40-goal scorer Matthew Wedman, who does have Memorial Cup experience. They moved him to Kelowna, and they kind of picked up their play since then. And it's one of those, kind of like we talked about, you don't really know what you're going to get with Seattle. They are a very big team. They are not afraid to play physical whatsoever. They have 7 players who are 6'3" or taller. They're always in the game. They can sometimes run out of gas at the end, but they never quit. And that's one thing, fans in Portland and fans in Everett have seen now. Portland again, kind of was running laps around them sometimes with the time of possession and everything. Portland in 2 games put up 50 shots in each game. Roddy Ross, if you end up seeing him, is a really good goaltender. Someone who's going to be able to, steal games, win games, keep the team in it. Henrik Rubinski is a player who's coming on right now. And then Simon Kubicek, I think is how you say his name. He had a really good performance for the Czech Republic at World Juniors, so they'll be getting him back. Andrei Kukucha leads the team with 33 points. He's got a really good shot. I think fans are gonna like seeing from him. And on the blue line, it can be sometimes their I don't want to call it their weakness, because I don't know if that's maybe fair to say, but an area where they maybe don't have some of the same star power that they have elsewhere. But Tyrell Bauer is probably their minutes leader. He's an all-around really good player. He hasn't quite finished like I thought he maybe would this year, but he's really strong, really good defensively. I think the interesting stat with Seattle, and I think I didn't update my stats from last night, but you guys are obviously going to see Seattle at home, but up until yesterday, so not counting anything they did last night, but on Friday night, they had 2 power play goals on the road all season. So it was like 2 for 60 something. Wow. But they were like 3rd or 4th at home or something. I can't remember, some crazy stats, but they had weird, 2. Yeah. So you just don't really know. But their power play is very different at home. The running joke that we kind of had among some of the media members is that maybe they need those obnoxious fans to yell "shoot" because they just pass the puck around on the road. But yeah. But Seattle's a team where you're going to want to keep your head up, because they're not afraid to lay the body, but they've also got guys who can put the puck in the net.
Yeah, that's similar to their story when they played Regina in the final. Yeah. They could score. They had, guys like, what's his name now?
That goon.
No, they had guys that score, and then they had Barzal, right?
Oh
he was flashing with the puck, like he was a step ahead of everybody there. And then they had guys like Ottenbright and stuff that were very, very physical and impose their will upon Regina in that final.
I was just looking, they lead the league in PIMS by 50 to the next team.
10%.
Yeah. I think some of that, they do bring it, and I think some of those are maybe not so much some of the physical stuff, but with being a bigger team, they're a little, I don't want to say slow, but they're just slower than Spokane and Everett. And when you play those teams, and Portland, right, when you play those teams 8 times, 12 times, you're not going to have the puck, and so you're chasing. So they're oftentimes picking up interference or stick penalties, but not taking anything away from some of that. But yeah, they are definitely can pick up some penalty minutes.
Right on. Then we wrap up here in Spokane on the 18th, Saturday, finishing off this road trip. Give us a little bit of your insight on Spokane, please.
Yeah, so Spokane, they sit comfortably in 3rd place right now. They're 10 points back of Everett for 2nd and 14 clear of Tri-City. So I don't want to say they're locked into that 3 spot, but they're a team who, if I'm being completely honest, I had them picked to win the division to start the year. Last year, their big question mark was in goal, and they added LA Kings 3rd round pick Lucas Parik, who anyone who watched the World Juniors saw him play a little bit for Czech Republic. Him and Ty Smith are away, and we saw Parik get injured, so we don't know what his status is for Spokane. And they brought in James Porter, who was in Kelowna, but actually got acquired from Moose Jaw. So there was a trade that had taken place there, and I don't remember what that other trade was, but he had last seen WHL action in Kelowna. But then if Parikh can't go, Mason Beaupit has taken some time. He's a 16-year-old netminder, again, big netminder, 6'5". The one thing I did want to say about the U.S. division, too, just kind of taking a quick step back, is that 4 of the 5 starters are NHL drafted goalies. So with Parikh, Hofer, Wolf, and who am I missing? Roddy Ross in Seattle. Okay. So the U.S. division is kind of known as you got some good goalies, but so Beaupit is a little bit raw still. He's a rookie. He's only played a couple games. He's been playing in the BCMML, so he shows some potential. But Spokane they're kind of a mixture of all other 4 teams. They've got some size. They can knock you around a little bit and play that physical style game if you want to, but they're also not afraid to take chances. And, if they want to win a 10-8 game, they're fine doing that too. So, right now they've got perhaps 2 of the hottest players in the league. Adam Beckman is a 3rd-round pick by the Minnesota Wild. He's got goals in 10 straight games, which is just unreal. That's a franchise record for them. And then Eli Zumak has points in 14 straight, which is a WHL best at the moment. So they've got all the tools. They've got, I think they're missing, not having Smith on the back end really hurts them. But they've got all the key pieces that a team would need to be successful. They've got the scoring. They've got the age. They've got the physicality. Now they've got the goaltender. They've got a power play. It's maybe struggling a little bit, but they've got a new coach in Manny Vivros, which I know maybe you guys have seen a little bit of him, some of his style, but they're trying to implement his system a little bit. So, but Spokane is, they've got everything. They just can't seem to quite put it together. They don't historically make a ton of moves at the trade deadline. They had Kyler Yamamoto for a while there, and they never did anything to bring him in, and now this is the last year with Ty Smith, so are they going to look to make a run with him? Right. I think the Parikh injury could I don't want to say takes or determines what's going to happen with them, but if they lose him for any stretch of time, that they could be in trouble. The player that a lot of fans lose sight of was losing Jake McGrew. Early in the year, he got hurt in a fight when he went down, and he's been out for the year. He's a 20-year-old player signed by San Jose. We've seen San Jose send a couple players back over the past couple years, and McGregor and Blickfeld, who've just absolutely lit up the league. Yeah. And McGrew was on pace to do the exact same thing, and that's really hurt them. Their power play last year led the league, and it's 8th ranked right now. I think getting Smith back, who's the reigning WHL defenseman of the year, will really help them. But yeah, that's kind of my quick high level. There's a couple other players that I think for fans who are looking at towards the draft, Jack Finley and Bear Hughes are having great years. They're probably going to get drafted. Finley is just you want to talk about a bowling ball who can shoot the puck. It's Jack Finley. He's 6'5", uses his size really well, and is not afraid to go to the front of the net. He can play on the that net front spot on the power play if he needs to. He's a former 6th overall pick in the Bantam draft. And then Bear Hughes, smaller guy, but again, you want to talk about speed. Hopefully he doesn't get out in the open. He would be a guy that I would love to see if they did like a fastest skater competition, because I think he would do really well.
Yeah, and he's got a really good story behind him as well. If people haven't read his story, definitely check that out. An unconventional rise to the WHL.
Yep.
A little teaser for later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else you want to ask him, Chris?
No, I don't think so. That's a pretty comprehensive rundown.
I think so. We always we were saying, we'll talk for a few minutes, but as it just goes, when we get a few WHL people, junior hockey people that are passionate about it, we can keep going and talking. But I think we've taken enough of your time today, and we really, really do appreciate it. And thank you shedding the light on this this division that we don't get to see very often and kind of sometimes feel a little disconnected from. But really happy with the information you provided us.
100%. Thank you guys so much for having me on, and it'll be fun looking forward to watching a few games of the Pats, since I don't get a chance to see them much either. So it should be a good road trip.
Right on. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yep. So you guys are on the rink.
Okay.
Yep.
So thanks again to Josh for doing that interview a couple of weeks ago now. Sorry about your Vikings and sorry about my Seahawks tonight. But thanks Josh for that. That was really good. And
it covers these last 3 games on this road trip. And
the one thing I do want to talk about though is we've alluded to it here, but to find this Brent Parker interview, it's through WHL Unfiltered, and that's Dub Network's podcast, and it was one of the better interviews I've heard in a long time. So obviously Brent Parker was the GM during the 2001 era Pats, and it's just he goes into so much detail about how trades kind of play out and building a Memorial Cup team and how that looks and the drafts, and I don't want to ruin it, but because I want to kind of get people to listen to it for them, but he talked about the Eberle year and not trading and kind of the stories around that. So it was really, really good. I think maybe extra for Pats fans, but I think anyone who's interested in junior hockey, there's some really kind of candid behind the scenes discussion, which was awesome. And Sean Mullen did a lot of the interview, who is fantastic radio
he's
person
really
as well.
He's really added an element to that.
Yeah, you can just
show.
Tell he's got radio background and that professionalism he brings, and it was an awesome interview. So everyone should go check that out.
Yeah, and Brent Parker's still involved in the WHL. He's scouting for ISS, so it's not like he's sitting on a porch somewhere just on a rocking chair.
Yeah, he's
still involved.
well into it.
Yeah.
The boys aren't back till the 24th now, so still almost 2 weeks away. But so far so good actually on the road trip. Pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I would have taken one win out of those first 2 games, and I guess it's fine. And I mean, it was not the win that we thought we were going to get, but a win's a win.
And that Portland game just will be it'll be a tough one. It'll be nice to see Portland. I mean, if you want to watch a game, they're the cream of the crop in the Dub right now.
And the funny stat about Portland, they do not have a 19-year-old forward on their roster.
Forward? So they have
at least forward.
Okay.
I don't know about D-Man, but I believe Chad's tweet was they don't have a 19-year-old forward. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
As a 19-year-old player, but I'm pretty sure it's just 19-year-old forward. So, because I know they had a lot of young kids last year.
Yeah.
And those 17s have turned into really good 18s this year. And then I don't know what they have for 20s, if they're forwards or D or what. But the 18s are driving that team right now, and they are hot, real hot.
So they're going to be good next year.
Yeah. Portland might be even better next year, but I wonder what happened with Hofer, because he's a 20.
Oh, yeah.
He's a 20 next year, but he's signed. So see what happens. You never know. Goalies are always that kind of wild card.
Yeah, and they usually lag behind in
a little bit
development, but they might want to get him. Who knows? Yeah.
But Portland could be even better next year.
That's a good topic to talk with Josh again some other time.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap it up. Some good games this week. If you want to stay up and watch them.
Yeah, there'll be some late ones. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Good night, guys. Thanks for everyone for tuning in and watching on Twitter. I got the chat thing working. I think going forward we'll have that working, so that'll be great.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks for the comments, Matt.
All right. Good night.
By set off into the slot for Holmes. Step shot scores. Robbie Holmes rips it off the post and in short side. What a rip! And Nikita Setoff picks up his 4th assist of the game.